That is John Legend's new music video, Preach. Legend's call to action against social injustice, including racially motivated traffic stops, has been viewed over 11 million times since it was released just over 2 weeks ago. Sometimes those stops have ended violently. And in an effort to curb racial profiling, North Carolina was the first state to demand the collection and release of traffic stop data. A University of North Carolina professor took a look at the stats to find out what it all means.
For George, your brake lights are out.
Their fates were forged on the side of a road. Philando Castile, Walter Scott, Sandra Bland.
Get out of the car!
All were pulled over by police on a routine traffic stop. As a result, all are dead.
The policing is unfair.
University of North Carolina professor Frank Baumgartner wrote a book on the subject. What is the purpose of our traffic laws?
The purpose of our traffic laws should be to keep us all safe, but they have come to be used as an excuse to do a police investigation.
In Suspect Citizens, Baumgartner analyzes 22 million traffic stops over 20 years in the Tar Heel State. He found that a driver's race, gender, location, and age all factor into a police officer's decision to pull over a vehicle.
It made me realize that people are not making stuff up.
The data showed that African Americans have been stopped twice as often as white drivers. And while they were 4 times more likely to be searched, they were actually less likely to be issued a ticket. The study also highlighted that whites were more likely to be found with contraband than blacks or Hispanics.
There's a way that police interact with middle-class white Americans, and there's a way that people in the police forces interact with members of minority communities, especially in poorer neighborhoods. You're viewed as a criminal suspect.
I think there was some resistance among law enforcement to embrace the findings.
Chapel Hill Police Chief Chris Blue is a member of the North Carolina Association of Chiefs, a group that initially called the preliminary findings deeply flawed.
Police officers go into this work for noble reasons. So when you see results that suggest your work is having disproportionate impacts, that's hard to stomach.
Is it inherent bias?
I'm not sure I know what it is. Police agencies are trying to think very hard about what policies and interventions they can put in place that might help balance out some of those disparities that were found in the work.
The work that's been done in North Carolina is a significant, from my perspective, a significant public service.
Attorney Jim Johnson chaired the committee to review New Jersey's police standards after the 1998 shooting of 2 black and 2 Hispanic men on the New Jersey Turnpike.
Lawyers and others charge the state cops continue to use racial profiling in deciding which cars to stop.
They were unarmed. Nevertheless, they were shot during the stop.
What were they stopped for?
It was a routine traffic stop.
The state agreed to settle with victims for $13 million. Ultimately, it changed the way troopers conducted police business.
There was a consent decree, and over the course of about 10 years, the state troopers worked with the community, with this Department of Justice, to deal with this issue. And they dealt with it by gathering data on all traffic stops.
Police discretion has been a power backed by the U.S. Supreme Court for decades. Why do you think that is?
The court looks like me. The court has ruled that we need to give the discretion to our police officers, and we can trust them to use that discretion appropriately. Nobody likes to be pulled over by the police, but it's not traumatic. But if you're Philando Castile, he was pulled over, I believe, over 40 times.
Castile was actually stopped 46 times, according to police records, racking up a total of $6,000 in fines, a sum his family has said he could neither fight nor afford.
And when we look at some of these infractions, they're trivial. They're not violent crimes. It's not keeping us any safer.
I think the quality of our work is actually improved.
A 21-year veteran, Chief Blue is known as a police reformer and is one of the first to implement some of the report's recommendations. What have you changed?
Well, we've de-emphasized an awful lot of low-level kind of traffic enforcement that the numbers clearly show have a disproportionate effect on communities of color.
Has it really had an impact on your ability to fight crime?
No, I don't think so. In fact, what we see is our officers are still making traffic stops. The quality of their traffic stops has gone up. The number of unnecessary searches has gone down. The number of searches that result in contraband actually being seized has gone up. For years, citations and arrests were a measure of success. The kind of analysis he did around traffic stops showed us that what we thought was effective policing was maybe not achieving the things we thought it would.
Author Frank Baumgartner hopes his analysis influences department practices nationwide.
Don't use the traffic code to alienate people for no good reason. Don't use the traffic code to go on a fishing expedition to try to show who's boss. And when the minority community has a significant voice in their local government, the police department doesn't do this. We can show that voting matters.
Voting matters, and the fact that this data got out there is proof of that. You know, Chief Blue said something really interesting to me. He said, you get behind the wheel of a car, you're gonna have an infraction, you're gonna violate the traffic code in some way. He says he tells his officers every single day, he says, you better make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze.
Right. Is a broken taillight worth it?
Yeah, exactly.
Those type of infractions.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to face facts about, I like what he said, that what you're doing, you don't want to face the facts of what you've been doing hasn't been working.
Yeah.
It's hard to stomach.
And again, that came from 22 million, the data was 22 million traffic stops, so there was a lot of evidence there.